can change you. I've not sang that song in a long time, but I'm reminded of the power of miracles. Yeah. It's overwhelming. Been a very different week. I don't usually just demand that pastor let me preach, but Wednesday God gave me a word and I knew it was ask him, you need to preach now. So I know it's an on-time word. So I'm going to ask, I don't want anybody to get scared. I'm not coming for you. I probably wouldn't be able to see if I tried. My contacts are fogged up, so good luck. But if you this week, or anybody you know close to you, has been under an attack, spiritually, emotionally, physically, if there's anything you or anybody connected to you, just this week alone, if you've been under attack, I just want you to stand to your feet. And just look around the room. You never know that coming in a building, do you? You never know what people are walking through when they get to church and they're ready to celebrate God. You never know what they have to take off before they can lift up those hands. So I want you to stretch your hands to a direction of someone standing, and I want you to just begin to pray. God, I thank you, God, for your sweet, sweet spirit. God, I thank you for reminding me, God, that you're in control. God, I thank you for the word today. Lord, may it just touch our heart. May it minister to us, God, the way it did me. Lord, I see great things for Rise Upon Church of God. I see us, God, being that hospital for those that are hurt, for those that don't know where to turn. But God, we need to be reminded. We need to be reminded of our jobs today, God. We're too busy. We're too busy. So today, God, I pray that this word will just remind us. Remind us we're to care for each other. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. You can have a seat. So the name of the message is Drummer Boy, and my husband tried desperately to fit in the song Drummer Boy for Christmas, and it doesn't fit. I'm letting you know, and I would love it because I'm a fan of Christmas. I'm already playing Christmas music in my classroom, but it don't bum me during this, okay? Because it's not going to fit, all right? Different time. So this week, I believe it was Monday, early in the week, my husband texted me and started discussing the fact that God was showing him that some of our intercessors were under a very big attack. And that's new for him. I don't know that I've ever really heard him just specifically say, I think our team, the people that hold the church up, the people that get in their prayer closet and lift up the ministry team and lift up the leaders, that they are under attack. Something's going on. And he felt the need to pray for them. And God gave him a name for them. He said, these are the frontline warriors. These are the people going directly to the battle. Now, I don't want you to think this message is just about them, because you're going to find out this is you. We all have had, you saw around the room, how many people have been under attack this week? A lot. And I bet you any Sunday he gets up here, it could be different, but it would always be people being under attack. I would have never known that. Some of you stood up and you looked as happy coming in as I've ever seen. I would have never known anything was going on with you. But these people, he called them the Frontline Warriors. And so I started praying for them specifically. And God gave me this message. And I asked, well, who is this? Who goes to the frontline battles? And this is what God was asking me. He's like, Amy, who goes to the frontline battles? Who do you think that is exactly? And I thought, well, easy. Soldiers. I saw Big Dale back there. Dale's like, yeah, I've still got guns. He does. He really does. I saw soldiers. Those are the people that go to the front line, is what we would see in any movie or any story. We hear soldiers, right? Big, buff, strong, brave soldiers. But God said that isn't all that goes to the front line. I'm going to take you back through a little bit of history. I'm not good at history, but when God showed me this, I started researching, and I could not write it down fast enough because it was very overwhelming how it applied to what God was showing me. In the Civil War, there were so many boys that were in the Civil War. It was basically called the Boys' War. Because if you were a teenager, you jumped and you were ready. It was all kinds of young men. So it was called the Boys' War. Everybody was young. Some of them were actually too young. I read where there was someone as young as 9 that tried to join. You had to be 18 to enlist, but he was 9. And so people around those ages, little young guys, they did have a job. It was called a drummer boy. Now, a drummer boy wouldn't have a gun. He wouldn't be fighting, but he was on the front lines. He was actually very, very important. So I want to talk about a job this morning that he had. The first job that he had was in the noise and the confusion of battles they were on. You couldn't hear the orders of like the commander, the officer. And drummer boys, they were important because they had all these different beats that they would have. Now my daughter told me, I'm not going to make y'all do this. I made Sister Sandra do this. And Belle said, you made us look like penguins. So we're not going to do this today. But in a minute, we're going to clap. So these drummer boys, they had these different beats. And they would just beat their drum. And you knew what direction to go. And so the first thing God showed me was this. Sometimes in the noise and in the confusion of our battles, we don't hear our commander-in-chief. We forget the order that God has sent us on because everything is so mumbled and jumbled and so messed up and we're so downtrodden that we forget that God has given us something. He's given us power. He's given us strength. And sometimes you know that we'll just drop things. I know this may be a shocker, but sometimes people will be going through a bad time and they will just drop church. Y'all know that? Y'all know anybody like that? I do. The most frustrating sentence, I believe to me, I don't know to you, is, hey, we miss you in church. Say, hey, I'm just going through a lot spiritually. Did you hear what I said? We text them or called and said, hey, I miss you in church. And they didn't come to church because they have a lot going on. Satan is beating them up. Is that odd? It's odd to me. Running from God, running from the one that's going to carry your load, running from the person that's going to help you. We forget sometimes that is our job. We are called sometimes to minister to people who are going through a strange time. And I don't want to say be rude. I don't want to send you down the wrong path. But you need to remind them that they're loved. You need to remind them that they're a child of God. You need to remind them that He is the only help. That they need to run to Him, not away from Him. Amen. You need to remind them that they have great callings. These same people sometimes that are sitting at home battling with things spiritually are the next preacher, or the next youth pastor, or Sunday school teacher, or you know what? They just may be the next person working in the nursery. But if Satan can keep them from doing all the things, he wins. So do your first job as a drummer boy. And make sure in their confusion that you speak to them, speak life to them. These drummer boys, like I told you, they had these certain calls, the certain drum beats that they did. They had one that meant meet here. Another was attack now. One was retreat. They had all these different things because they couldn't hear the men calling. So they would use drum beats. Well, my favorite one that I read was called the long roll. The long roll means it was just the signal to attack. It meant, we're coming. We're coming for you. You better watch out. Here we come. The drummer, he would just begin to beat, until, there was all kinds of different infantries, right? So it wasn't just one big mass army. So there may be some way in Trenton and some in Rising Farm. So they would start beating until each one of these groups could hear it. And it says that every drummer in hearing distance would begin to join in, until all you could hear was this overwhelming thunder pushing this army forward. Yeah. Now I want to show you something today, because this is just what God showed me. We have the potential to do this in this church. We're not going to be very effective, though, if we do it with just one. So I'm just going to use a couple of people. Miss Brittany, do you mind? He does. He uses you, so you can't say no to me. Okay. So, because this morning I used Sandra, she was right there. And I don't want Carrie to run. Carrie may run. Okay. You might be coming up then. So Miss Brittany's going to stand. See, this is what happens in our church. Miss Brittany is going through something. Some of you may not know, that's Brittany. She's head of the cleaning crew. She's awesome. She's also an intercessor that I know has been carrying the weight of a lot of people. So she's here, not to air out your business. But Brittany could be going through some personal things along that I don't even know about, that Pastor doesn't even know about. And so Brittany, start beating your drum. You can just do it slow. Now I want you to listen. Hers is a little louder than Sandra's. But if I start talking really loud, you can't hear that, can you? Say no. You can't. I hate to say I'm the voice of Satan, but this is what Satan does. He starts speaking really loud and he tells Brittany, you're a loser, Brittany. You're going through this alone. You may as well quit beating your drum. No one's going to help you because she's alone. But what we need to do is I'm going to add Pastor Chris. Now, Brittany, you're going to walk. You're just going to walk around. Keep beating your drum, girl. We need to have help. What if Pastor Chris stands up and he starts doing the same thing? I hear that, right? But I don't want to hurt your ears, but this lady can get louder. And if you think that Satan can't start speaking louder and telling you lies, you're crazy. It is his job. It is his job to mess you up. It is his job to silence him. What we need is this. Stand to your feet. How loud is that? What does that sound like to you? That sounds like an army. Now I dare you to give him praise right now. Go ahead. Shout at your enemy. What's holding you back? Shout in his face. This is who I am. And here's why you can say that. Deuteronomy 28:7. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come to you from one direction, but they're going to flee in 7. Isaiah 54:17 says, no weapon formed against you will prosper, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Say that with me. Say, this is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. If you're a child of God, you are a servant of the Lord. Your heritage is Jesus Christ. Your bloodline goes back to Jesus. I have a crazy uncle he didn't watch. I have a crazy uncle that got obsessed with heritage and bloodlines. And you know, I didn't want to know because we kind of had some weird things back in the day in my family. But I don't have to study that one because it doesn't matter earthly where I came from. My heavenly home, my heavenly bloodline is Jesus Christ. Another job that these drummer boys had, when they were not running around and beating the drums, it's just today we needed a drummer here, right? But I liked it because y'all are amazing drummers. When they were not doing their drum calls, they had a different job, and they were called the stretcher bearers. See, these young boys, they didn't have guns, so they were not fighting. So when they were not being used, they would walk around the battlefield, and they were looking for wounded soldiers. And when they would find a wounded soldier, they would put them on a stretcher. I can't imagine them carrying it very far. I imagine them dragging them to medical help. Woo! I tell you what, we're in the midst of a battle. Yes. What's going to happen in a battle? People are going to get wounded. Yes. Even the strongest in intercessors, I know this is for you so you know who you are. Even the strongest, the closest people to God in this church will go through struggles. Right. You may stand in awe and go, oh, but I thought they were perfect. They're perfect through Christ. Absolutely. But if you think Satan doesn't want them, right. Because if he can break that barrier, then he's going to have very easy access to the ministry leaders of the team. Because I know they encamp around us and they encircle around us and they pray for us all the time. So I just want to paint you a little picture, and I didn't do this in the first church because I want you to really understand there are some people in here that are getting beat up right now and we don't know it. Because we look and we think, she's got it together. She's got it. So Jen, I'm going to use you this morning. Is that okay? Because she came up and spoke. So some of you may not know Jen. And you may look at her and go, wow, boy, that word, that was good. How did she do that? Where did she? Wow, that's really strong. See, I know Jen. And I know Jen gets beat up by Satan. I know she fights him. But sometimes we get so weak in that, don't we? Yeah. We never really let people know. We battle and we think, come up here, Jen. We think that Jen comes up here, and because she will a lot of times, right? She'll come, just stand right here at the altar, and she will give God her very best praise. She's a worshiper. I love that about Jen because she's never afraid to come up here, as many of you are. You're not afraid to come up here and worship. As you know, we're not going to get you, right? But see, when I see Jen walk up here, and I see Jen start to praise God, I never see her dressed up and looking pretty like she always does. This is how Jen, take off your shoes. I see Jen getting real. I see her taking off her shoes. Take off your scarf, Jen. I see Jen taking off all of her baggage, all of the hurts in her heart, and she lays it all down, and she gets on her knees, and then and there is when she begins to worship, and she begins to pray for this church. She doesn't come up here looking fake. She is real. She is a real worshiper. Hallelujah. And that's a strong person. Right. That's our prayer warrior. That's an intercessor. But she's coming up here. I see her. That's how I see her. Then she always comes up here real and takes up all the pretty stuff, and she gets real with him. Yes. You need to open your eyes in this church. Amen. Because this is a battlefield. Right. Whether you believe it or not, we have a lot of people wounded because you stood up. So I know this message is right now. So I know there's wounded parts in here. Come on. We need to open our eyes. We need to look around this battlefield.
Right. Good word.
Because we need to learn how to carry them.
Yep.
Just like these stretcher boys. We need to learn what it's like to carry them.
Right.
Now listen, do you think they wanted to do that? No. Because they wanted to be a fighter. They wanted to be a soldier. They wanted to carry a gun. But it wasn't their time. But you know why they did this? Because they wanted to serve.
Right.
They wanted to serve their country somehow. Sometimes we have to figure out a way to serve. Sometimes the best way to serve is just to carry the burdens of someone else.
Yes.
Do you know why we don't do that? Do you know why I don't do that? I'm busy. How many of you have jobs?
Yeah.
How many of you are married? How many of you have children? Okay, you just said, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. Absolutely.
Right.
Sometimes we are way too busy to carry someone else's problems because I got problems of my own. And it's very hard for me to look around this room and go, Tony, I can carry yours, hon, because I'm good this week. And me and Sister Lisa were talking, because I'm on the mountaintop, so I can carry yours. That's why we're not always on the mountaintop.
Amen.
You know, that's why we're not always sitting up there peaked and ready. It keeps us humble sometimes to carry other people's stuff. So if you want to serve, you've got to be willing to carry burdens.
Amen. Right.
Last but not least, I started thinking about these drummer boys when they were stretcher barriers. Is that right? Stretcher barriers. When they were probably walking around this battlefield and looking for people to help. Men just probably, don't you assume they're probably just laying there and they're being quiet, right? And they're not saying anything. They may be bleeding. They may have broken bones or have bullet wounds and stuff like that. And I'm sure that the stretcher bearers just walked around and quietly looked for people. Do y'all think that's what happened? Not really. In my mind, if I'm wounded, what do you think you would do if you got shot? Help me! I would scream out if I was hurt and I was wounded, and if I knew that help was coming, in which they probably knew that help was coming maybe some of the time, I would start screaming out in agony until someone did come.
Right.
We have that. James 4:8 says, come near to God, and He will come near to you. If you cry out to Him, He is going to draw to you. He's going to turn His ear like this and go, oh my goodness, my child needs me. I need to rush to their aid. And you know, sometimes He will send who? He's going to send all these other people in the church. Because sometimes we're just not meant to go through things alone. Sometimes we are meant to have a helper.
Amen.
Now, why do we not scream out? We're too proud. We're too embarrassed. We think we're the only ones that sin. We get intimidated. Do you know how many people get intimidated by people like Jen? A lot. Because they see that and go, I can't do that. That's perfect. Nobody's perfect except Jesus Christ. Nobody is perfect except Jesus Christ. The best thing that you can do is to cry out to Him. Cry out. And realize you can't do this on your own. You need Him first and foremost. If no one ever comes, He comes.
Amen.
Always.
Amen.
But you will be amazed at how you will feel if you come to the altar in a few minutes and you lay things down and people put their hand on you and they begin to pray and you have nothing to do but just begin to cry. How many people don't come up here and ask you, well, what is it, dear? Tell me the whole life story. I've never seen somebody do that except Pastor Chris. But I mean, I'm not meaning that as a joke. I mean, like, but we just put our hands on you and we begin to intercede. And we begin to pray for you, for breakthrough, for freedom. We know who our helper is. We know where our help comes from.
Amen.
So I ask right now that even as you're sitting there thinking, Lord, what is she talking about? I'm going through a lot. You go ahead and ask pride to leave, because if it doesn't, you're going to walk out the door the same way that you came in. And I know that's not who God is. So I'm going to ask Pastor Chris to come. I want him to play This Is How I Fight My Battles, because I see that. I didn't do it in the first service, but I definitely see that now. So I'm going to go ahead and have you stand with me. 3 things I want you to take away today. Number 1, as a drummer boy, sometimes you need to remind people of the call from the person that's over them, their orders, their marching orders that they were given from God. Sometimes you've got to remind them of that during their struggle. Number 2, and the best one, and I see our church doing this, is the long roll. You need to join in with the long roll. You don't need to let somebody sit there and just do this by. See, I didn't have to tell y'all to join in. I had to tell Brittany and I had to tell Pastor Chris. But how many of you just jumped up and knew what to do? We know what to do. We know to go to someone's aid when they need it. You're saying, well, I don't know. I don't know what they're going through. Here's what you have to do. You can't be too proud, though, to wave that flag and say, I've got problems, girlfriend. I need help. I can't be too proud. I can't be too proud to come in this church and go, hey, guys, I'm not perfect. I'm Pastor Chris's wife, but I'm dying inside. I've had a terrible week. Somebody pray for me. You've got to be willing to come here to get help. And last but not least, be the burden bearer. Carry the wounded. Man, we have an amazing church family, if you don't know that. This is an amazing group of people. But I feel like today was your reminder. This church is called to be a hospital. Do your job. Carry those that need it. So I'm going to pray first, and then I'm going to open the altars. God, I give you praise today. God, I thank you that every need today will be met. God, I just rebuke the spirit of pride for someone right now that's sitting there saying, this wasn't for me. I can handle this on my own. No, we cannot handle it on our own. We need to wave our flag. We wave our flag to you, David. And we ask Jesus that you flood us. You flood us with the Holy Spirit. You flood us, God, with your presence, God. That you come and you take over the altars today, God. That hearts will be changed. Problems will be lifted. Burdens will be lifted off of people, God. I pray for the intercessors, God, that today this altar will be where they begin to work again, God. That you will show them, you will lay people on their heart, God, that they will work in boldness. They will work in boldness in this house. In Jesus' name I pray. Now listen, the altars are open. Don't wait. Don't wait. If you need to come up here, you come up here. You take your shoes off. You take off jewelry. Get all that good, pretty stuff off. Come up here. Get real with Jesus today.
This is how I fight my battles. This is how